Bonsoir. Good evening. On behalf of Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce, I would like to welcome you to this evening's election forum for the upcoming 2013 municipal and school trustee elections. I thought we would commence with the singing of O Canada because A, we don't sing it often enough, but more importantly, B, to remind ourselves that Canada is a great country. I want to thank New Canadian Charlene Teo for leading us tonight. Thanks, Charlene. As a democratic and free society, Canada is one of the best countries. Alberta, with its natural beauty and resources, is a dynamic province, and tucked away in the Rockies is the gem we live in, Jasper. This is a great community, and tonight, to continue making it great, we have this large grouping of candidates who are seeking your support to represent you for the next 4 years. Let me introduce you to them in alphabetical order and group by the position they seek. For Mayor, Karen Fontaine, Richard Ireland. For candidates, for councillor candidates, Von Arsenault, David Baker, Paul Butler, Baz Bird, Bob Covey, Rico Demota, John Glaves, Grandpa Don Hahn, Paul Height, Helen Kelleher MP, Brian Nesbitt, Rich Potter, Monica Schaefer is being represented by Pat Wilson, Jeff Smith, Jack Templeton, Ann Thomas, Dwayne Wacko, Gilbert Wall, and Heather Leslie Young is being represented by Sue Sesko. And for school trustee, we have Betsy DeClercq and Jerry Letner. While our democracy has many freedoms and privileges, it also operates under a system of law and order, and this forum is no different. Having said that, the guidelines for tonight's forum are as follows. The draw for the commencement of speaking was determined prior to the commencement of the event. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to self-introduce and present their platform. The second part of the evening is the opportunity you will have as an audience to question the candidates. You may address your question to 1 or 2 candidates only. You will have 30 seconds to ask your question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer that question. We will alert you when there's only 30 seconds left. The evening will conclude with a brief 1-minute closing remark from each candidate. Our forum is scheduled to close at around 9. We advise that the Fitzhugh, along with its partner Habitat for the Arts, is broadcasting the event on the Fitzhugh's webpage. Once you have texted your friends with that, we'd like you to keep the interruptions at a minimum and ask that you turn your cell phones off. Let's move on to the main event, beginning with the candidates for mayor and their opening statement. Begin with Karen Fontaine.
Well, wonderful group we have here, more than last night. I'm happy to see you all here. My name is Karen Fontaine, and this is the second time I've ran for council, and I've worked for 47 years, and 30 of those years have been with the municipal, provincial, and federal government capacities. I've been on numerous committees throughout the years. And last night I had some interesting insights from the people that came to my table. One thing I wanted to say is that I heard the grumblings over the years, and I wanted to put my hat into the ring this time and try to assuage some of them. I think that I can do some service here by helping you, helping the community, bringing my experience. I I wish to have an open door policy. Apparently years ago, they would have a meeting once a month where the public would come in and say their issues, and this is what I'd like to open up with as well. I like to, rather than say what I have issues on, I'd like to hear what you would have to say about something. I would rather hear constructive criticism and work as a collective to solve our issues. And that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Richard Arlen.
What does a mayor do? Provides leadership. Not traditional, heavy-handed, authoritative command leadership, but leadership. The mayor has more duties than powers. Council has the power. The mayor's role is to lead the meetings. The mayor speaks for and represents council, the municipality, the community, speaking with the press, attending meetings with other agencies, groups, and organizations within and outside the town, with other mayors, with provincial and federal politicians. The mayor often provides the first impression and projects the tone and image of the community. To fulfill those duties, the mayor must provide inspirational leadership, leadership which engages and empowers, leadership which both engenders and reflects the pride and commitment we all share in this community. Leadership, as I practice, entails 4 elements: humanity, humility, honor, and humor. Humanity. Leadership must first be about service to others, service to community. Humility. Leadership is about recognizing, harnessing, focusing the ability of others. It's about accepting good ideas and good advice. It's about giving, not taking credit. Honor. Leadership is embedded in honor, encompassing attributes of honesty, integrity, respect for people and for process. A leader must lead honorably. Humor. Leadership is best served with a smile. Life should be fun, we should laugh, and leaders at times have to have the ability to laugh at themselves. And that constellation of attributes leads to inspirational leadership. To provide such leadership, a mayor must be inspired. I am inspired by you to offer my service.
And now moving to the candidates for council, the first speaker is John Glaves.
Hello, my name's John Glaves. I've lived in Jasper since 1975. Right after I graduated from economics, I came out here. I've worked in construction all my adult life. And I can say that if I get elected to council, I will listen to what the community has to say to me, and I will work hard on a 6-man team to try and bring what I think is, and what other people think is best for the community. Why would you want to elect me? I have the best interests of the community at heart. I have no private agendas, no axes to grind. I have a construction background, which I think would be a really good tool on the council, something that maybe we haven't had in the past. And I practice a very old art. It's called common sense, and I think I can bring it to the table. And I think that could come in really handy when we're working together as a team trying to thrash things out. Thank you very much, and I hope it's an informative evening for everyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brian Nesbitt.
Thank you, Bert. I'm here tonight to explain to you why you should vote for me. As many of you, we have the shared experience of coming to Jasper for a summer job or a temporary visit, falling in love with the place and staying. I got the job, fell in love with the town, and have been here almost 40 years. When I get passionate about something, I get involved. I did that on my job. I served 4 terms, as president of the railway union. And I left that organization in good, strong financial shape. I also got involved in the community. I ran for council and served a term on council. Unfortunately, it was a little difficult while I was still working for the railroad. My vision of the town going into the future is the same as what led me to fall in love with it when I came here and stayed. It's a beautiful town in a beautiful setting in the national park. It offers great services and facilities for all ages, and it has responsible open government. I plan on improving on that and keeping those. I'm well known, I'm approachable. I will listen to all sides of an issue before deciding my position on any issue. I served on council, I know the job, I know the position, I have the experience, and I now have the time. Thank you very much. Good luck to all candidates.
Our next speaker is Ann Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Ann Thomas, and I'm running for the position of councillor. I've been connecting with people lately, and I believe there are 2 main areas of concern. The first is communication. I believe the new council has to have more dialogue with residents. As issues come up that are critical to the town's operation, I believe we have to engage feedback and opinions and then make an informed decision. There are many ways we can do this. Informal dialogue with councillors. We could have weekly updates with respect to what councillors are working on, social media channels. I'm personally in favour of having some council meetings scheduled in the evening so the public can attend. It's everybody's town, it's everybody's tax money, and everybody has a right to be heard. The second point is the financial future of our town. I feel we have to have a long-term plan, not just for 4 years, but for 20, 30, and 40 years. There are many issues that are coming up in the next term with respect to infrastructure, older town buildings, roads, etc. And we have to be able to deal with those issues with a common sense approach. And I feel that I'm a person that can do that in a practical, basic approach. I think that really what we can do is we need councillors like myself who will deal with those issues and emulate the principles that families and businesses do with respect to monitoring spending. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gil Wall.
Thank you all. My apologies first off for being late. I'd like to take this opportunity in my first 20 seconds to thank 3 people, and that's Brenda Zink, Brian Skihill, and Mike Day. Between them, close to 30 years of community service, absolutely selfless, and thank you very much. I'm going to be short and cut to the chase. How do we as a community support this level of service we've grown accustomed to, that in fact we demand? How do we support a level of service that our business community has grown accustomed to and demands on a stagnant tax base and a taxation model that simply doesn't work? So short-term priorities are all around that. How do we do it? without breaking individual property owners. Second to that, I think a priority of the next council, independent of whether I'm elected or not, will be to badger this provincial government to give us some tools that will take some of the pressure off individual property owners in the community and put them more on the visitors that use the services. I'm really looking forward to entertaining some questions on those 2 points, so thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Bob Covey.
Thanks, Bert. Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Covey. I'm 32, and I am a writer and a journalist in Jasper. As a journalist, my profession is telling all sides of the story. It's my job to seek out different perspectives and present them in ways that will promote empathy and mutual respect. This experience, plus my experience working with community outreach services, showed me that not only is it important to a community's health that we have high quality human services, but that it's actually financially prudent to do so, informed my decision to run for council. Along with running a small business, I work in the service industry. I have an idea of how important it is that Jasper's businesses are staffed and those staff members are supported. I'm a candidate that will be honest and do my best to bring all of our diverse community groups together under common interests. I'm young, I have the energy, and I have a strong history of involvement with different service groups. I have a track record of leadership in Jasper, and I believe the most important qualities a first-time councillor can bring is a willingness to listen, to learn, and to get to work. I love this community, I love the people that live here, and I want to be a part of this future. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Fred Kreiner.
I'm going to take a moment here just to let people know I'm fairly new to town. I've only been here for a couple of years, but I don't, without a lot of knowledge about the community. I've been coming here since I was very young to spend weekends, and over the last 15 years, while my dad was living here, came regularly as well. And I do have a lot of experience working with governments. I have been a trustee of the Francophone School Board, and I think one of the projects that we pushed for and managed to finally bring to fruition is the building that you see coming up not far from here. It was a joint project. So working together with others is something that I really believe is one of the skills that I have. I think I also bring a set of fresh eyes, having experience working in different communities. A wise person once said, if you have 10 people sitting around the table that all think the same way, you've got 9 too many. And I think it's important that we develop, and as a council, the time to really listen to each other's diverse opinions, and I'm hoping that we have a very diverse council that is elected, that will then make sure that decisions do take into perspective all the different viewpoints. I'm also someone who's very connected with the youth, and I'm going to make my apology now for being a little late, but football practice was just today, and I'm one of the people who got the football team started, come to the game on Friday afternoon. But I've also been involved as a hockey referee here in town and working in school travel as part of my job. I've always been involved in communities where I live, and I do work well with others. So hopefully I encourage everyone to go out and vote for the candidates that they think will represent the community as a whole, and ensure that there is a certain diversity as well in the candidates that you select, because that's how the best decisions are made. Thank you very much.
Speaking for Monica Schaefer is Mrs. Pat Wilson.
Hello, my name is Pat Wilson, and I am very happy to be giving Monica Schaefer's opening remarks. The reason she is not here tonight is that she is fulfilling her contractual agreement with Via Rail and is playing her violin on a train right now as we speak, working her way across the country. Her trip to Montreal and back has been planned for many months. She sends her regrets for not being here, because I know she wanted to be here. Monica Schaefer has lived in Jasper since 1982, over 30 years. She worked for Parks Canada for many years, first for visitor services and then as a national park warden. a job that she passionately loved. During the past decade, Monica has been busy with her violin, both in teaching and performing. And this is the message she wants me to convey to you, and I quote, "Even though I would have liked to be here to answer your questions tonight, I am feeling confident that many of you have a good idea where I stand on a lot of issues, as I have not exactly been hiding. I have written lots of letters to the editor over the years, and I have run in 4 elections, 1 provincial and 3 in federal, each time representing the Green Party. I was always proud to represent the Green Party, as their principles and mine meshed beautifully. Those principles start with ecological wisdom, which must underlie all decisions we make. Social justice, respect for diversity, and grassroots democracy are some of the other green principles which guide me in my day-to-day actions, deliberations, and decisions." Unquote. Thank you.
Speaking for Heather Leslie Young is Sue Sesko.
Heather couldn't be here this evening. Her father passed away earlier this week, so I offered to send her opening remarks for you. Hello, friends. I've been preparing for this election for 4 years. This has included attending council meetings as an observer, reading our community sustainability plan, our waste management strategy and implementation plan, the town satisfaction surveys, annual reports, and budgets. I've studied the province's pages on municipal governance and the Alberta's Municipalities Act. I'm as prepared as any non-incumbent can be. What do I think our key concerns are? Let me highlight 4 equally important issues. 1, housing, including the potential for rent geared to income for seniors and others. 2, furthering the negotiations with parks on issues like liability management at the transfer station, building and parking requirements, and other land uses. 3, our sustainability plan of 2011 has many goals still pending, such as updating our zoning regulations to permit newer green building techniques, improving accessibility for those with mobility issues, reducing our town-produced waste stream and the expenses it adds to our operating budget, which amounts to about $158,000 a year, and working towards meaningful employment for youth. 4, we have to balance the need for maintenance and life cycle costing of our physical infrastructure with our equally important need for social and cultural services. Both are essential. The problem, we are limited in our town's revenue sources, and no one wants to see higher taxes. I have global and local experiences to draw on for creative solutions to these and other challenges. I have a history of contributions to the community, and now I make a pledge to listen to you, to work diligently to represent you, and to help make Jasper an environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable community.
Our next speaker, Jeff Smith.
Thank you, Bert. Good evening, everyone. Many of you may already know me. I see a lot of familiar faces out there. Summer must be over. Sorry. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Smith. Oh, sorry. I was born and raised in Jasper, and I'm now privileged to raise my 3 kids in this amazing town as well. My parents still call this town home. My father, Bob, is retired and resides in the Pine Grove Manor, and my lovely mom there manages the Greyhound station. I also have brothers and sisters and numerous extended family in Jasper that they also call home. I'm currently employed at the Whistle Stop. I'm the assistant bar manager. I play for the Bongs Athletic Association, which is a great honor as well, who's donated $40,000, over $40,000 over the last 38 seasons now, John, I believe. And I'm also an active volunteer and various community events. First off, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the current council and mayor for their hard work for the last 4 years and beyond. Thank you, everyone. I wish those who are leaving success in their future endeavors, and the new incumbents the best of luck, for sure. I realize I am unfamiliar with the process of governance, but I am not afraid to wade in open waters by any means. I like to tackle new things, and if I can, for sure. My priorities and my main focus are to the more vulnerable groups in town, like the seniors and seniors and families, and more resources we can provide for groups to make the town a little more attractive, obviously, and more attractive than it already is, and that might be impossible, but by the nature of my work, my ears to the ground, and I have the opportunity to talk with Jasperites of all backgrounds. Anywho, my main thing is kids, families, seniors, and everything. Jasper's a beautiful place. Thank you for everything.
Our next speaker is David Baker.
"256 words are all that might be said in 2 minutes. 23 of these are spent in sharing this fact. Dispensing with the 'if elected, then I promise,' I choose the remaining 215 words to submit the following. In 2001, I moved to Jasper. In 2001, we gathered in this room to vote to become a town. Both incidences are coincidental, but related because without either one, I wouldn't be here tonight. There are 20 candidates for 6 positions, 3 candidates for 1 spot, 16 people who will not be chosen, and 1 person who will captain the team. To vote outranks who is voted for. Government is not leading. Government is listening. Decisions are not laws until the powerful are satisfied. You are powerful. You will decide. I will listen. Mayor and council will represent. We will grow and prosper. Jasper is where. Wilderness is why. Tourism is how. Everything here is connected. Everything here is borrowed from tomorrow's generation. We cannot take it with us. We can only make it better for the future. Presently, only 84 words remain and precious little time. The Fitzhugh has more details. 74 words and seconds to go, so to those present I say these words. Our strength is our diversity. Our solutions arrive collaboratively. Governance with transparency. To Jasperite's future, here are the remaining 42 words. Think globally, act locally. The world is watching and they know where we live. Change is a power you possess. Wield it wisely and often. Question everything. That's constitutional. Vote. Get involved and make a difference.
Our next speaker, Rico Demota.
Starting with a quote from Shopping for Votes. It's a book by political journalist Susan Delacourt. She says, "Choosing a politician is like choosing a product in a store. If you're good at influencing people's product choice, chances are you should be good at influencing their political choice." When I was preparing my speech for tonight, I remembered the quote, and it dawned on me. I'm writing another commercial for myself. Who likes commercials? We often block out those sound bites whenever we can. But here we are. We've all taken time out of our busy lives to listen to us. And that says a lot about you. So I'd like to thank you all, and I'd like to thank the Chamber for putting this on for us tonight. My pitch. I love my job as a councillor. I love the opportunity to have the chance to make our community a better place to live in, work in, retire in, and visit. I'm not going to give you any empty promises, but I will promise to continue to be dedicated, passionate, and work to do the right things for the community as a whole. I'm here for the greater good. I've had nearly 5 decades of family history here. lived and worked for the last 21 years, served for 6 years on council for you, and sat on many appointed boards and committees where I think I've learned my position well. The biggest honor, other than getting to be deputy mayor, was having the opportunity to work with and learn from some of the best people who have served this community. I like to think that many of, I like to think that many of their good qualities have rubbed off on me. We bought our first home last year, and I recently got married to my lovely wife, Kia, here in Jasper. We're here to stay. I understand how one needs to be focused on goals to get a desired outcome. I agree. Okay. We will have some new councillors this year, and I believe that my experience will bring a good balance moving forward. I've been here for the community and would like to continue with the drive for a better Jasper. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paul Butler.
Good evening. I'm going to assume that everyone reads the Fitzhugh, so you can read all you can possibly tolerate about why you should vote for me and why I think I'm the right person for the job, which I do. And you can look at my website where you can read more of my ramblings if you want to. What I really want to talk about right now is what I think the ideal council and the ideal candidate looks like. There are 7 seats and 7 is few. Each voice around the table is critical. So we need people who have the motivation and the skills to work effectively and constructively together. We hear a lot about wanting to give back to the community, and that's good, but clearly the desire to give back is the one thing every candidate here shares. If you didn't, you wouldn't be up here, believe me. What we need is councillors who can apply a constructive skill set and make positive change. You know, I'm skeptical of the single issue and narrow focus view. I'm wary of extreme perspectives. The outspoken and contrarian point of view can be captivating, but it doesn't often produce solutions. If you're too far out in the perimeter, you may not be able to see the center of the issue. Being a persuasive debater is good. Being contrarian and adversarial, maybe not so much. At the same time, we need to beware of the culture of consensus. It can become just too easy to agree. I like working with people I don't always agree with. When I sit at a meeting table and look around and see right at the beginning that we're pretty much all in agreement, the first thought I have is, you know, we could really screw this one up. Because it's more likely we haven't explored all the upsides and the downsides, and I think we've seen that happen. It's easy to want to make everyone happy, and when a win-win solution is there, believe me, I'm all in favor. But the reality is that most decisions create some winners and some losers. But we've asked the hard questions and based our decisions on facts, then the community at large should win every time. Thank you.
Next speaker is Paul Height.
As a gentleman, I do number 13 in the order to speak tonight. My name is Paul Height. I've been a chartered accountant in Jasper for 35 years. I can assure you I'm very nervous standing here this evening. However, I do stand up for what I believe in. In this instance, I believe Jasper needs 4 all-new members on its council to promote financial accountability and good management to its citizens. I say 4 because council requires the majority decisions based on it. Well, the majority votes stumbled on that one. Anyway, I grew up poor on a poor farm in Nova Scotia. Not that my parents were poor farmers, but the land was hard to work. We raised livestock and crops, cut wood, and hauled gravel and snow. I often walked home 5 miles in order to tend to my chores. At that school, we poor farm children ate roast beef. The poor children from the fishermen ate lobster, and those that were more affluent students ate peanut butter, something that was a luxury to me. But from the farm, I learned the hard way about proper financial management and accountability. I also learned that honesty in both words and actions were essential to gain and retain the trust of our customers. Never did we provide a customer with less than what they had bargained for, in either quantity or quality. Expectations I have of our our municipal managers and his contractors. Before Jasper voted yes to become a town, my brother-in-law in Sherwood Park advised me he thought that we were crazy. That was because he felt that we would not have the property tax base to be financially sustainable in the future. That is why Sherwood Park itself was still not incorporated. I brought his concerns up then in Jasper and they were ignored. However, they now seem to have become a major public concern. Almost all of our municipal issues come down to dollars and cents. Unfortunately, common sense has not always been practiced. Indeed, it appears that in many bad decisions have continued to repeat themselves at a great expense and concern to the community. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Dwayne Wackel.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow residents, thank you for coming out tonight in this practice of democracy. I am very pleased to be here tonight amongst a large and diverse group of candidates expressing their interest in the governance of our municipality. The past 3 years serving you on our council has been challenging, rewarding experience with many successes. I would be pleased to serve you again if you see fit. So, where do I hope we are headed? Not necessarily in order of importance, and certainly not the only priorities. The departure from our community of commercial operators causing erosion of our narrow tax base presents challenges, reclamation issues aside, and with respect due to the locally based employees of Jasper National Park, the out-of-date land use and planning function of Parks Canada as it applies to our town must be updated. In the coming 4 years, with appropriate provincial funding, we should continue efforts to relieve the infrastructure deficit we inherited 12 years ago, focusing on streetworks and utility projects that will not contribute to operational cost increases. Related lessons learned over the past years could lead to a restructure of the contract approval and administrative processes. The recent Patricia Circle Streetworks project was a successful test of a possible new direction. Any changes to the FCSS department must not result in program loss. A close examination of the Culture and Rec department of 20 years ago, whose duties included some of those undertaken by FCSS now, may provide clues to the success of possible changes. We must continue to resist Parks Canada's efforts to reduce the funding for their share of municipal services. And I endorse the efforts that created the Jasper Partnership and will continue to support collaborative efforts that enhance the lifeblood of our economy, the tourism industry. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Grandpa Dong Han.
Thank you. Friend, neighbors, Jasper Wright. Thank you for giving me this opportunity tonight. My name is Dong. I do not have formal English education. I wish I can speak English fluently. There are a lot of points I would like to make tonight, but the fact is we all know we have a lot of work to do, and we can turn the clock backward. So the only decision we can make, where do we go from here? In Canada, I worked at SaskTel. I have worked many mega projects. I learned engineering skills, and in the area of budget control, contract development, and corporations. As a town councilor, my goals are: 1, the God-given beauty of Jasper National Park should be sustained as it is for the generation to come. 2, to earn respect and trust, there must be clear communication and transparency is a process. Decisions made by the council do not favor special interest group or few individual, but whole of Jasper community. 3, tolerance, inclusion is a value I believe in. We all came from somewhere in the world. We contribute something to the community to build the best country in the world. We are a multicultural society. No matter what your language or your race, we are Canadian, citizens of Jasper. Together we are strong, proud, and beautiful. 4, economic growth isn't an issue. Especially in the winter months in Jasper, we need to explore all avenues to bring sustainable economic growth. I think we need to look outside the box and start thinking way to maximize the Jasper National Park as our biggest asset.
Our next speaker, Helen Kelleher, MP.
I was with Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce and I worked there for 13 years, the last 4 as general manager. I worked with many of you in the community, through community groups during that time. After I left Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce, I moved to the Grand Alberta Economic Region. That's the RETA of the area, which served 12 municipalities, which Jasper National Park was one. Also, the municipality of Jasper was part of the partnership. During that time, I learned a lot about regional partnerships and committees. Why did I run? I love this community and want to serve it. My platform: fiscal responsibility, economic development, find other sources of revenue without rising the taxes, continue to work with Parks Canada on land and development. I believe Jasper should only answer to one level of government. Housing, it's a continuing issue in our community. We need it for our seniors. We have a lot of baby boomers that's coming to that age that will need affordable housing. Young families. We have a lot of mentally and physically challenged individuals in our community that need a group home. I'm not saying the municipality needs to get into the business of housing, but we need to facilitate and work with government agencies to provide that for our citizens. Folks, my best quality is my worst quality. I call an ace and a spade a spade. So, if you elect me, I'll work honestly, apply common sense to all municipal issues on your behalf. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Jack Templeton.
Good evening. I thought tonight I would tell you some of my formal training and work experience that I think would be relevant and useful in seeking the position of municipal councillor. I have 2 accounting designations which have been the foundation of my career to this point and which I believe would be helpful in this new role. My work experience has included being the vice chairman of the board of trustees of a large Alberta hospital and becoming the vice president of finance and administration for that same hospital. I then became the administrator of Seton General Hospital here in Jasper before obtaining the position of budget director and senior accountant for the Alberta Cancer Board. I have also been a homeowner and business owner here in Jasper for a number of years. I have always worked in an environment of teamwork, consensus, majority rule, openness, and accountability, so feel very comfortable in that environment again if given the opportunity. Now that I'm retired, I have the time, interest, and desire to participate in municipal affairs. I have experienced many changes to the town in the 32 years I've lived here and would like to participate more actively in Jasper's future. I believe that with my formal training and experience in finance, accounting, budgeting, and administration, I could bring a certain depth of knowledge in this area to council meetings that would be helpful. I've held the position of Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Financial Officer in my previous work experience, so I can understand and appreciate some of the challenges faced by administration and assist in supporting their efforts in the future. I voiced my opinion both verbally at council meetings and in writing through the media on issues that I thought were important to the community. I feel I have a lot to offer in the decision-making process of council, not only through my training and experience, but in a certain level of maturity that comes with age. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Vana Arsenal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you in hopes you will cast a vote for me as town councillor. I have no hidden agendas. My motivation for running is to serve my community in the most right and fair way possible. I care about all dimensions of our town, all age groups, all sectors, social, environmental, cultural, educational, recreational, and of course, economical. Those that know me can attest to my fierce loyalty to Jasper in most of these areas. Last night, I spoke to a number of very informed people who raised a lot of issues, such as concerns about the cooperation between parks and the municipality, the keeping of the reused area as opposed to more use in the landfill, and the hopes of procuring the seed program that our students have won. Of course, the museum is another issue very close to my heart as well. I have miles to go in educating myself on the many facets of town council, but will do my best if voted in. It is truly wonderful to see so many candidates running for election and so many people out here tonight. And I hope this is reflected in voter turnout, as the biggest threat to democracy is voter apathy. The beauty of municipal politics that it is that it is nonpartisan and a very real and fair and direct way of exercising democracy. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Rich Potter.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for coming. I first arrived in Jasper in 1978 as a fresh-faced 20-year-old. I hired on as a brakeman on the CNR. After a couple of years, I started taking educational leaves, and I finished a commerce degree out at UBC over the ensuing 4 years. And in the summer times, I just kept returning to Jasper to work the rails and put myself through school. Once graduated, I moved back to Edmonton, returning to Jasper in 1993 with my wife Cheryl. We raised our daughter Tanis here, and we've just loved the last 20 years. I've worked for many years as a property manager under contract to several condominium boards in the Jasper, Hinton, and Grand Cache areas. I took part in and often led discussions to help determine the budgets of these condominium boards, typically budgets running between, say, $250,000 and $400,000. So unit owners, they want to know how their condo fees are going to be spent, and their boards are accountable to them, just as our town's taxpayers want to know how their taxes are going to be spent. The level of services and infrastructure that the condominium unit owners want are going to determine what their condo fee assessments are going to be, much like the level of services that you want as townspeople and the level of infrastructure that you want are going to determine how much your tax assessment is going to be. So it's a dynamic that I've enjoyed working in, and it parallels well to some aspects of being a councillor. I am concerned, like most people, about the ongoing shortage of housing that plagues our town. I would be very interested in bringing any experience I had to bear on filling the gaps in both rental and ownership options for young people and seniors. The town of Jasper must one day run its own affairs in terms of zoning and land use. We are mature enough as a citizenry to effectively operate within the critical parameters of limited growth and environmental integrity. We have to admit that the present Parks Canada attempt at regulation and enforcement is a shambles, and the municipality by design has the tools to do this. I would love to be a part of any effort to make that possible. It's really time for that discussion. Thanks very much.
And now moving to the candidates for trustee to Grand Yellowhead School Division. Our first speaker is Betsy DeClercq.
Thanks, Bert. Good evening, everyone. I have lived here in Jasper for the last 41 years. I was privileged to have taught at our elementary school for 34 years. And for 6 years, I have been honored to be your public school board trustee. Over the last few years as your school board trustee, I've advocated with the Alberta government. This has successfully resulted in funding for our new Jasper Junior Senior High School, which is a joint project with the Francophone School Board. Our school is going to be spectacular and is on track to be completed by the end of June. I feel strongly that this new school should become a real community hub, a building that will be used after school, in the evenings, and all summer. I have been open and transparent with parents and staff at monthly council meetings at both our schools. I have made myself available to listen and dialogue with community members when they have questions and concerns about educational matters. I have brought forward issues to the board that need to be addressed for our community. I have promoted a literacy initiative with the board, and as a result, literacy has become a board priority throughout our division. I have asked the board to include student representation. My favorite events, though, are reading a book to all the grade 3 or all the students in an assembly at the elementary school, going on a grade 3 field trip where we are all actively learning about rocks and minerals, or going on a sustainability trip with high school students to Seattle, where we were inspired and reminded that our global requirement is that we move forward with environmental conservation and social justice. Our children and their need for an excellent education system must be a priority. The quality of their education today impacts their ability to become successful citizens of tomorrow. I am a strong supporter of public education. The learning and teaching in our schools has to continue to be excellent in every way. With the collaboration of teachers and school staff, with the support and input of parents and community, this can be accomplished. I ask you for your continued support on October 21st. Thank you.
Our last speaker tonight, Jerry Lettner.
Good evening. I can only hope the last shall be first, but anyways. Thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for this forum this evening. Thank you all for attending. My wife Alice and I have 5 adult children, and we now have 4 grandchildren. Our lives are really immersed in learning. In addition to instructing through my career, I have served as a school trustee. I have served on a board of governors at the college level, and as a faculty association president. In Jasper, I serve as coordinator of our Communities in Bloom committee. Over the past 4 years, Jasper has been recognized at both the provincial and national levels as a winning community. So I care about education, most definitely, and I care about Jasper. I'm a candidate for school trustee for many reasons, but I will highlight 3. The first is learning. I extend my congratulations to our teachers who motivate and encourage our students in creative ways. The field studies that occur in Moline Canyon, Mount Edith Cavell, Old Fort Point are some possibilities. The JACK program, fantastic. And of course, the Jasper Sustainability Club for Youth. What a success. Yes, I know there are issues, but they can be resolved. As a trustee, I would remain committed to these and expand learning opportunities. Second, our new school. It is exciting to watch construction proceed and anticipate the school's opening in the fall of 2014. Teachers, staff, and students deserve a smooth, positive transition into the new school. Having Jasper High and École de Rocher under one roof has many advantages, but still many challenges to work through. Jasper's trustee will be required to help navigate through this transition. Third, enrollment issues and resources. Enrollment issues are funding issues, and our population is restricted. Jasper School Trustee must clearly and convincingly articulate our educational requirements at the board level and at the provincial level. And most importantly, we must do whatever is possible to ensure our students have successful, meaningful, and memorable learning experiences. Thank you very kindly.
This concludes the formal presentation by the speakers. We're going to take a little break, but before we take a break, I'd like to, there's a number of people who are standing. We have a number of chairs up front that are open, and we also got some chairs on the side, so we can get some volunteers to help set up those chairs. We'll return in 10 minutes. That's at 7:45? 7:40? We'll say 7, thank you. And now for the question period. Questions can be presented both verbally at the central microphone in front or in writing. We have the answer or the question sheets at the back available. You'll hand the written questions to me and I will read them. We'd ask that you address the questions to one or two candidates. The sheet will indicate that it's all candidates. That's an error. We're trying to make as many questions available, and we're trying to make as many answers available from all the candidates. So questions should be specific to the candidate's platform or position and be limited to 30 seconds. Questions should not in any way be attacking, causing discomfort, or embarrassing to the candidate. So, who's ready for the first question? Did I set the ground rules too high? Oh. Go ahead.
Thank you. Jack, I know you're interested in the town and the parks being able to work closer. Do you have any ideas on what could be done about that?
Thank you. You know, I don't exactly know what the issues are between parks and the town, but in my experience, oftentimes these conflicts are caused more by confusion as to where exactly what responsibilities each party has. And if you get an overlap of responsibilities, you get confusion. As an example, there's a lot of confusion, I think, over if somebody wants to do any development in town, even to the point of adding to their existing home. You know, they don't know if they should go to, at one point they have to go to parks and to get approval, and then to the town to get a license, and I think there's too much overlap and not a clear delineation of who has responsibility for what, and the people are confused about that, and I think that's what's probably causing some of the problems.
Next question. It would appear the candidates have done an excellent job of presenting their platform and have done a good job of answering the questions in the FITSU. Come on up.
I have a question for just two candidates, and it's directed at Rich Potter and at Fred Kreiner. And I would like to know if you have the time availability to properly fulfill the job as a counselor.
That's a great question, Matt, and thanks for that. And believe me, I had to give it some pretty careful consideration, some serious consideration. So in a heartbeat, yes, or in a word, yes, I will have the time. I have, as you know, just recently hired some help. Dennis Safino, I think, is in the room. That was not planned to coincide with any sort of a running for municipal office, but just that in itself, were I elected, would really take the heat off in terms of my real estate workload. I have a number of volunteer things that I do, including the incoming presidency of the Rotary Club, which I will give up. I have already arranged, in case I was to be elected, to step down as a president. I have the president for the year after that, Greg Van Tegem, has agreed to step in and serve as the Rotary president for next year. So, and I'd step back from my other Rotary duties.
In a nutshell, the answer would be yes for me as well. One of the realities that I do work full-time, I think it's important that council find ways to make sure that meetings are not necessarily held during the working day. That would be certainly a concern of mine, that we could have evening meetings or at times when people would be available. But much like Rich said too, I am very involved in a lot of volunteer things right now, and certainly those are some of the things that I would manage to scale back in the event that I were elected. And one of the things that I've often found to be true in working in with a variety of different groups over the years is that if you give something to do to the person who's busiest, it's most likely to get done, because they're the ones who don't have time to just fiddle around. They use their time wisely, and I think I'm one of those kinds of people. Thanks for the question.
Next question. I understand a lot of people pick up the written form, so they should be starting to come in now. Go ahead.
Glenn Leach, a question for Helen. A lot of insights into the business community, and I've owned a small business in town for 10 years, and I think I speak for a lot of us. This was a very exciting summer and a really solid impact as far as Jasper and how we were perceived out there. I just like your perception of where you see how we can learn from that and really together work to have that more successfully, because we're all looking for expansion with Jasper, and you have those kind of insights. So I think it's positive to have somebody possibly on the council that has been in tourism and involved with business. So
I think this summer has been really exciting for a number of people in Jasper that I've heard from the businesses. I think working with the businesses together, working with Tourism Jasper, the Chamber of Commerce, Travel Alberta, regional tourism committees, that's important, to work with your partners in BAM, to collaborate together, and we're finding that visitation is up. And the more we work together, I know the municipality has a new committee that's going to be working, that has representation from the chamber, from businesses, from the attractions, that are going to work together on more economic development within tourism.
Next question. For your information, last night we had the one-on-one or whatever it's called, and it was new. It was in its new in its infancy. I think it went very well. It may have answered a lot of questions that are not showing up here tonight, but feel free to ask questions.
Good evening, Norma McLean. I have a question for Helen, for Dwayne, and possibly Rico. I would like to know how the relationship between Tourism Jasper and the Jasper Chamber of Commerce is going to continue, because one seems to be disphasing the other.
I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this. When I left the Chamber of Commerce, when I was with Jasper Tourism and Commerce, we were the advocacy and the marketing. Tourism Jasper is now the marketing group. They do all the marketing for the community, as they're your destination marketing organization. The Chamber represents the business and works in conjunction with them. They bring the Chamber members' concerns to Tourism Jasper. They're the advocacy for you guys. I know that some of the programs that I've seen with the Chamber is some of the learning programs, some of the seminars that work together, and I know that you work together within the information center.
It's quite simple. I think the Jasper Chamber of Commerce is an advocacy organization. The role should be fairly distinct. Tourism Jasper is the marketing organization for the community.
Three, two, one.
Yeah, I think actually Helen was the best person to ask, to be honest with you, and you know, not to put you on the spot, but you have experience in that, and you were there before the transition. But they are doing two different things now, and I personally, being in the working in the business sector and being a part owner of a small business, find that I think both are working quite well in the community, and I don't see one phasing out the other at this moment. Maybe there is a different perception up there, but I think they're working well for us as they are in their satellites.
Next question. Does any candidate have follow-up on the questions that have been asked to date? Karen, come on up.
Last question there. I wanted to comment about the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Jasper. There are two different, I don't know what I say, avenues. Chamber of Commerce has business owners, mostly business owners in there. What they don't realize is that they're affecting tourism too, and they're shooting themselves in the foot. And how they're doing that? They're hiring staff from around the world. If they don't treat that staff right, that person will go back home and tell 10 people, and it'll go on and on. It'll be Facebooked, it'll be Twittered, it'll be all over the world. I think this is where the Chamber of Commerce has to get everybody in line.
Next question, please. Comments? Candidates? Are we going to conclude? I don't believe so. Written questions, don't be afraid. It's your opportunity. I was told we would be bombarded with questions. So come on, guys.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes. Go ahead.
A question for Gilbert. You had some thoughts on increasing revenue other than just taxation through property?
Thanks, Murray. I'm glad you asked. We're really in an interesting position in Jasper in that we have an absolutely stagnant tax base. So there's no growth and there's no prospect for growth in that tax base. Yet we are in the position of having to fund all the operations of the town, our infrastructure, with no prospect for growth in the amount of money that's going to come into the tax or into the community. So the issue is twofold. So to continue with the level of service that we have right now, you either have to pay out of that property tax base, and to be blunt, we're underpaying now. I know no one wants to hear that, but we're not paying the piper. And if I was going to go on an unelectable platform like I threatened to do, I would say to you all, expect a 10% tax increase next year just to support the level that we're accustomed to. That being said, there's a consumer-based funding model that other resort municipalities use all over the world, and they use them to fund resort municipalities. And they all do it because resort municipalities have infrastructure needs that support huge influxes of tourists, but on small population bases. And that's where we have to go with the federal or the provincial government, is try and get them to see that that's the issue here. It's the issue in Banff. To some extent, it's the issue in Canmore. But it's not a taxing issue, it's a funding issue, and it's the method that we fund tourism communities that are solely reliant on tourism is where the problem is. Thanks.
Written question for John Glaves. Please elaborate about how you think Jasper needs more housing, but opposes a possible building across the street from his house. That's a bit personal, I'm sorry. John, you want to comment on that?
Sure, I'll comment. I need the microphone. I'm not opposed to a building going across the street from me. I'm opposed to having it talked about around town before the rezonings happen. I mean, right now, it's zoned for R2, and they're talking about putting an R3 building on it. So I'm being told that this building is going to happen, and never once have I been approached by any level of the government that there's a rezoning going to take place. So I'm opposed to the planning of a building going ahead before the rezoning is taking place, and we go through the rezoning process. You know, the lot in question, I actually was thinking of buying, and it went to the government, and I was told by the government that it was an R2 lot, a double lot, and I could build two duplexes on it. And that was, what, 4 years ago? And now, you know, I hear there's an apartment building going up. Well, that may happen, and I may or may not oppose it, but I certainly am against, you know, things going forward without the basic infrastructure taking place.
Thank you, John. This is coming online, by the way. This is for Bob Colby, right? Right, thank you. How will you support the hot lunch program that the previous council turned down?
This thing on? I think there's room for discussion to enhance early childhood development initiatives. And if the hot lunch program is something that families and parents with children in daycare and school want to see, then I'm certainly willing to discuss that. And I mean, on the surface, to me, it sounds like an idea that merits discussion. The reasons that council chose to turn that down, I'm not entirely familiar with, so I'll leave it at that.
We can, sure, have one more answer on that one. Go ahead, Rico.
I just wanted to say that, you know, we trust a lot of our directors to, you know, produce their budgets and do whatever they can within their budgets to make their department operate. And that hot lunch thing for the children, I think, shouldn't have came to the council table. It's an administrative issue, and it shouldn't have been a governance issue at the time. And, you know, maybe it could be looked at again by the next council.
Go ahead. Next question. For Jerry and Ms. DeClercq, traditionally, this town has enjoyed pretty fine funding for our education system until, was that a decade ago, Betsy? Maybe 20 years ago, when things changed. And we have recently heard of some new thinking going on about funding as opposed to taxation for our community. Is there any kind of that kind of thinking going on for our educational needs?
Thanks for that question, Chris. I am Betsy, not Mrs. DeClercq. There's been so much discussion about funding for our schools. And basically what we're advocating for right now is predictable, sustainable funding, because our schools do not know for sure from year to year what funding they're going to receive. You know, the enrollments go up and they go down, and so does funding goes up and down with enrollments. So funding is definitely something that we continue to advocate for, especially for rural school boards, which we are a rural school board. You know, we need viable funding for rural schools. So that is definitely something, Chris, that we're going to continue advocating for, predictable, sustainable funding.
Any
in response a little bit further, in addition to predictable funding, I would say adequate has to be in there as well, because there are times that I really wonder if the funding for education in a province that is growing as rapidly as Alberta is, when you look at the provincial budget for education, whether it's there. And quickly, when we look at taxation, the province has stated specifically that they want to make sure that they maintain a 32% of the education budget coming from the assessment, the property assessment. So educational property assessment will remain at 32%. It's not supposed to go up, but it will remain at 32% of the provincial budget. That gets pooled and then redistributed equally on a per student basis throughout the province. That means that the additional 68% would come from general revenue from the province. And I don't see that changing. I see those numbers being fairly firm. That's just information that has been on the website this year that they have when they put out budget 2013. But when we look at other issues, there's definitely differences with the what system is it? Our learning system for students that are taking it through technology studies. And in that sense, we still have to look at ways that we can achieve more funding in small rural schools, where at times that's the only option that our students have, is not to take classes in where they have a teacher right there, but they have to look at taking them through distance learning. That's the term I was looking for, pardon me, before. But our distance learning funding is actually decreasing. And that, I think, is unfortunate. And we have to really look at ways that we can still make sure that students get the type of courses they need and for their programs. Thank you.
Next question. Before we go to the next question.
Well, I'm here. But I didn't think I would talk. I didn't have to tonight, but I am compelled.
We're delighted.
And I'm as nervous on this side, well, not quite. But this is directed again to the school trustees on this issue. I have my tax bill here, and our municipal taxes increased $50 from last year. My education tax increased $200. Our taxes were $1,300. Our education taxes were $1,337. So I hope that this is something, it's based on assessed value. It's an archaic way of getting taxes, but it's even more archaic to educate our children. And I hope that both trustees will look into that further, or potential trustees, because I think we really need to get on with a better way of educating our children and not putting it onto the taxpayers in this way. Thank you.
Richard, you had a comment on an earlier point. Could we address that now?
If I could, I just wanted to return to the very first question that was addressed to Jack. And it may have left the impression that there is a problem with the relationship between the municipality and Parks Canada. And I want to go on record as saying that there is no problem with that relationship. In January of 2008, the municipality and Parks Canada executed a relationship agreement. And we agreed that although there are differences that we have to discuss, we can do it in a collaborative way to best serve the interests of the residents of this community. Last council re-signed that agreement, and the relationship is good. It doesn't mean that we don't have issues to discuss. Issues such as the transfer stations, issues such as potentially the transfer of Land Use Planning and Development Authority to the town. But it does not mean that there is anything wrong with the basic relationship. We work very well with Parks Canada, and they with us. We respect the fact that we have jurisdictional differences and issues to talk about. But I do not want to leave the impression that there is a problem with the relationship.
We have a written question for Rich Potter. Do Do you see perceived conflict of interest in any housing and zoning votes that maybe involved you on council? How will you deal with that?
That's a great question, whoever wrote it. I was thinking about that as I was contemplating running for office, and actually went so far as to have a discussion with the mayor about it. The first point that I would like to make is, I suppose, well, before getting to conflicts, my basic outlook on housing in this town is the same outlook that you would all have. So affordable housing, co-op housing, more rental housing, we need more supply. Those work against the interest, let's say, of a greedy realtor type, because it keeps prices down and that sort of thing. And I'm quite honestly very much, I would be very much dedicated to seeing housing problems resolved. Now, let's say I was sitting on the housing committee. First of all, let's say it was a council matter. Something came before council and I was sitting there. I could always just excuse myself for any vote on any issue that had anything to do with, let's say, an approved housing development, or an approved, say, the release of, if the town had anything to do with, Parks was releasing land and the municipality was going to team up with Parks on some development. I mean, I could excuse myself from the discussion or from the vote.
Because the park and the city, I just had no idea where to start. And I thank you. I'm very sorry it come across the way it did.
And I apologize if I misinterpreted, but the impression I thought was left, and I did not mean to imply any ill will. You were asking a question, I think Jack's answer was accurate in that it is sometimes difficult.
Yes.
Which means that between us and Parks, we have to do a better job of serving constituents. I just wanted to make it clear.
Yes.
That the problem is functional, it's not a problem with the relationship itself.
No, and I'm not complaining. I love your, I am not complaining at all. I love Jasper, but I've sure put a lot of legwork back and forth.
Welcome to Jasper. And thanks for your participation. Go ahead.
Hi, this is one for Richard Ireland and Vanna Arsenault. I'm here on behalf of the Jasper Sustainability Club for Youth. We've put in motion a plan to bring a seed-certified building to Jasper, and I was wondering, in what ways would you support this project and the possibility of it teaming up with the municipality?
Thanks for the question, Megan. I really appreciate the fact that students won the SEED classroom, and I'm very interested in pursuing it coming here. And if I was on council, I would definitely look into ways to ameliorate your progress. A lot of us have never seen a living green building. I think it's very, very exciting and has a lot of possibilities for this town.
Thank you. What council has did when requested, was support the project financially. And so through the Environmental Stewardship Committee, funded jointly with Parks Canada, so it's their consent as well, we contributed $10,000 to that effort. And I think a demonstration of financial support is there because there is moral and spiritual support for your efforts. And I see no reason why that may change. Of course, it's always at the will of council, but the support has already been demonstrated, I think. Thanks for the question.
We have a couple written questions.
We have a real live question.
Good, go ahead.
How about that? I'm a baby boomer, and we have a saying in the movement, we don't trust anybody under 50. So I'm going to ask a question for the Gen Xers and the Generation Ys here. So Rico, Bob, and Dave. Take a look around the room, and Jeff. I'm only asked, okay, well, I can only count up to 3. We're allowed to ask 3 people, right? But if you want to pipe in, you're allowed. We'll let you. We don't trust you, but we'll let you. Question, take a look around the room. Seniors and baby boomers. Everybody talks about democracy. Everybody talks about representing everybody in town, the different groups. What are you guys going to do to engage Generation X and Generation Y?
Well, this is a good question for me because when I moved here, going on 12 years ago, I was parachuted into the who's who of Jasper via Jeanette Fijon. We did the International Year of the Volunteer video, and so suddenly I was in Glenda Cornforth's kitchen and Fred Coffin's living room and so on. So I think that Jasper should look to its seniors or the baby boomers as a source of wisdom, and we need to embrace the wisdom that they have. And you know what? If you hang out with them a little bit, they're a fun bunch. Kathleen has permitted me to make another insurgence into that population with a seniors video, and I got to meet even more of them. And you know, what are we going to do for them? We're going to listen to them and embrace them as active people, because in Jasper, I don't think we warehouse our elderly. And to me, I think they're one of our most precious resources. That sounds patronizing, but it's true. Some of the most important people in my life are in that demographic you were talking about, and they deserve our respect.
I just want to make sure I understand the question, Stephen. You're talking about engaging young people? Well, you're right. You know, I look around the room and there's not a lot of the people that I would have gone to high school with or I work in the restaurant with here, but there are a few, and I'm happy to see those faces. But I think people my age and younger and Rico's age and all different ages need different forums and different mediums to get engaged. And this is a traditional type of democratic exercise, and I think we know that young people aren't necessarily following traditions. And I think if we can meet people where they're at, and I've had experience engaging young people at the ski hill, or heaven forbid in the nightclub, and you know, it doesn't need to be a community hall and fluorescent lights to get people engaged. I think we have to think a little creatively, and there is evidence that youth are active and involved. It just takes a little creativity to find out where they're at. I think we all know young people that are doing great things, and you're right, it's going to be our job to get them involved in the voting process, because when it comes down to it, that's the basic exercise. But as far as being active, there's more ways than one to move your community forward. Thanks.
I guess Bert's forcing us to all answer. That's okay. I often go to my friends that are seniors in the community for advice, and I think that we're engaged by being here. You know, and I was really grateful. Sorry? Oh, we're very good friends. But yes, and it's definitely a big thing in this community to get the young vote out, to get the younger generation involved, and I think that we could do a better job at getting people more active in the younger demographic, so to speak.
Jeff, you want to answer that too?
When you look at the town, the majority of it is seniors and kids. So being in the middle of the road is, like Rico said, you know, talking to a lot of seniors, talking to them, and us being the middleman, passing it on to the kids. It's just a wicked circle of a great community. Thanks.
We have a written question for Gilbert Wall. What about extended and evening care for daycare, although it may have a hard time receiving funding?
I'm going to sidestep the question. It's a valid question, and it speaks to some of the problems we're going to encounter when we expect a service. Every time we expect a service, there's a cost associated, particularly daycare. This community, this council, present council, this community has funded daycare and to a great extent funded individual spots in daycare. We subsidize it. It's a question to the community, how far do you want to take that subsidization? If you add that kind of daycare space, you add full-time equivalents to man it. Every full-time equivalent in this community results in about a 1% tax increase. So the question isn't whether we can, it's whether we want to. Whether we want to under this present funding arrangement. Because if the council decides, yes, we're going to go down that route, immediately that will result in an increase to your taxes. So it's part of a broader question, and I'm sidestepping the individual question of the whether it's daycare. You could insert any issue you want for daycare, and you still have the same problem.
Thank you. We have an open question here, and I'm going to pass it on to Paul Butler and Brian Nesbitt. Increasing tourism and business is great, but what to do to facilitate yet the influx when we have a shortage of gas stations, we have unfortunate power outages at peak times? Tough question, but I think you can both handle it.
So I understand that the question is, how do we respond to increases in tourism when we are having difficulty with power supply and gas stations? The gas station problem is a big one, and I don't think it's going to get fixed. I think we're going to have to accept that we're living with the number of service stations that we have to live with. People have bigger gas tanks and they drive further, and they just don't need to come into Jasper to fill up their tanks anymore. Power problems are part of the nature of the place we live. I don't like it when the power goes out, but I honestly don't find that it is a crippling or overly debilitating problem for me as a tourism operator. I would like to see it get better, but I also don't want to see a lot of more trees to cut down for the right-of-way. So I think we found a balance that works. I don't find it to be an overly vexatious problem.
Well, in my new life since retirement, I now drive and guide for Sundog, and I have lined up at that gas station and spent hours waiting to my turn to fill up the bus. It is a problem. It has to be addressed. I don't know that there's an answer. We definitely have to look at it. There's not only the need of people coming into the town, but there's also the need of the buses, of the trucks and whatnot that work here in the town. They may not come from out of town. So anyway, it needs to be addressed. The power outages, I thought they got quite a bit better this year than in years past. I know we've had some tough years with those brownouts at supper time, but this year I didn't notice it as bad as a problem. And that would be talking to ATCO and dealing with them, and I think they've made some service adjustments.
Thank you. We have a question from the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my question is sort of a follow-up to that one as well as to Gil Wall. All these problems with the gas stations and with the tourism economy in general as a globally dying industry, I'm interested to know if any of you have any ideas on how to diversify Jasper's economy so that we're not specifically reliant on tourism, and so that we can continue as a town into the future as the tourism industry collapses.
Can I direct this question to people who have not answered yet? Paul, can you answer that? Oh. You're ready, Paul. You're ready.
I love a loaded bomb. I could hardly speak before. For an unpaid announcement, I do have a handout if anyone wants it. Diversification in the community, they won't allow it. And I mean that more in the zoning from Parks Canada. We have unfulfilled spaces in Block S that we can't service by our own needs. So to suggest that we're going to diversify in a tight environment, I don't have the answer to that. What I do would think, though, is that if we're going to, we can develop on our own. We have some very unique facilities here. And I'm not talking about the park. There's hardly a place I've been in the world, and I haven't been to that many, but I know where I'm going, and that's down. And it'll be warm there. But there's a lot of beautiful places in the world. We're not unique there. A lot of places have trees, rocks, mountains. But what we have, and we don't promote, cut me off quick. 1 minute, okay. We have a great group of restaurants, we don't promote it. We have a great group of salons and spas, we don't promote it. We have the pampering for community of those around us, within it and outside of it. We have things that we can promote within. Thank you.
I have to say too, I don't think diversification is necessarily the answer to the question about sustaining. I think one of the things we have to do is try and develop our shoulder seasons and our off seasons to a greater degree. We do have terrific infrastructure here. Like Paul mentioned, we have some great services in restaurants, salons and whatnot, but everyone knows that in November, we don't have as many people here as we do in July. And anything that we can do to try and promote our community as a destination outside of those very peak seasons where we're all working very hard, try and develop our shoulder seasons and our off seasons to a greater degree would be one way to provide a greater revenue stream, as businesses would be attracted to want to stay here and maintain a business year round rather than only part of the year.
Thank you. Question from the floor?
Thanks, Bert. Gilbert brought up a point a little while ago that I thought quite important. He talked about his secret campaign, or the one that wouldn't win, the 10% increase in tax, which is near and dear to me. Bert, with your permission, I'd like to poll the councillors by a raise of the hand who would vote. Standing up instead of raising their hands, who would favor an increase in our taxes of 3% or more? Can we have that happen?
I don't think that's a fair question. I mean, we had an open forum last night. We had the one-to-one discussions, and I think that's where it belonged. I think to personally put somebody, in a tough moment, that was not part of the discussion that we wanted to have tonight. But I see we have some people who are willing to answer that.
There's two, I see.
I'm sorry.
It's a bit of an unfair question, obviously, because you have nothing tied to it. But it's an important question in that for us to continue with the level of service that we have right now, 3% is not going to cut it. So I will stand here in front of all of you and say that the tax increase for the same level of service will be well in excess of 3%. Thank you.
I I would like to say we have to face reality. Inflation is going faster than 3%. We're not going to be behind that curve. We're going to be in front of it. And to expect to some of them say that the Parks Canada is going to cut back on our land rent. One of them recently one employee was provided with a new truck recently and was told not to take it down dirt roads because they couldn't afford the mud flaps. And he goes in the backcountry. Go to our province, we've raised the municipal taxes, or our share of school taxes by $400,000 this year, and they're crying poor. So we're going to have to look internally. If we want to look internally, my suggestion is we watch our costs. That's the area we've got to bring in. I can't promise you there won't be a tax increase, but I think there should be a better spread of the income that we have over the expenses that we're incurring. And we have pissed away a shitload of money over the last few years.
In keeping with our time schedule, we have time for one more question from the floor. Go ahead.
I would like to return to the relationship between the Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Jasper. I cannot accept that Tourism Jasper is the marketing arm of the Jasper Chamber of Commerce as long as all of the members of the Chamber of Commerce are not members of Tourism Jasper. And Tourism Jasper seems to give very pronounced favoritism to their members as opposed to all the businesses in town.
Okay, well, the question I don't think is appropriate because we're discussing town council matter. Those matters belong strictly with Tourism Jasper and Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce. Yes, we are sponsoring, but that's all our involvement is. Anyways, we must move on. We have time to move on. Now for closing remarks from each candidate.
Bert,
yes.
I just have a comment about last night's meeting because you asked about that. It was great.
Thank you.
The people that were there had time to talk, and hopefully we encourage that again. One thing that seems to be totally missing in this conversation, it all involves finance. It was brought up by Gilbert, and your point of that special fund, Gilbert, I'd love to hear more about that, and I'm sure the townspeople would. But do you know from last night's discussion, when everyone had a chance to speak for a length of time, that for every dollar we are giving to this provincial government, we get 8 cents back, our municipalities. 40 some cents go to the province and 50 something goes to the federal government, or vice versa. That's where our money is. That's where the municipalities have the power to unite as municipalities, tell this provincial government where to get off, get the money back into the communities which are providing the province with the money. We get 8 cents back on our dollar. So council, I challenge you, motivate the other municipalities to start working as a united force. We are the power. We are giving you the power to work with the other municipalities and tell that provincial government this is no longer going to happen. That's number one. There's your funding right there. Big time. Thanks.
Thanks for the comment and information, Art. I also appreciate the comment on the feedback of last night's session. If anybody else has any comments or input for future usage, we'd certainly appreciate it. Like I say, it was new, it worked well, or at least we think it worked well. The candidates sure liked it, so feedback would be appreciated. Now for closing remarks. To be hopefully 1 minute in length. I know we're not giving the candidates very much time. And the order has been reversed from the opening remarks, so Jerry, you're right. Last becomes first.
This is going to be so good. Then I will be ready to listen to the others. Thank you. I am definitely highly motivated to serve a 4-year term as a school trustee. My educational experiences would bring a fresh perspective to Jasper and to the Grand Yellowhead District. I am personable and very willing to be visible in our schools. Parents will find me ready to listen and to respond. I was very happy to see Megan. And is Megan here? She had to go back. But it's fantastic. She was here this evening representing the Jasper Sustainability Club for Youth. And that is near and dear to me. I really appreciate the learning that has gone on there. And I dare say that we as a community have learned a great deal from the students, and that is to really be commended on their part. So thank you to them, and definitely I want you to vote on the 21st, and I certainly would appreciate your ballot. And we're right next door. Thank you.
Next is Betsy the clerk.
I want to borrow some wonderful words from a recent Jasper community collaboration that was facilitated by our community outreach services. It really does take a village to ensure that Jasper's children have childhoods filled with wonder, adventure, joy, beauty, love, and companionship. What better words for all of us to think about when making decisions about our children? Children are my priority. I am committed, dedicated, and trustworthy. I will ensure that the best interest of each and every child is considered when making decisions about our children's education. I would like to thank you all for coming. This truly is a great example of democracy at work. Now all we need is a huge voter turnout. Thank you.
Next in councillors, Rich Potter.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is, isn't it wonderful that there are 20 interested people seeking offices up here tonight? I congratulate you all for being here. I think they all deserve a round of applause just for standing up, being counted. I thought there might be some more comments to come out of discussion, so I didn't really prepare anything, but I'm really pleased to be here. I'm proud to be a Jasper citizen. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to serve. Good governance is what this is all about. It's responsible government that's reflective of what you all want, and I really want to be a part of it. I'd appreciate your vote. Good night.
Next, Vana Arsenal.
In closing, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who came out for turning up. Gives me great hope. I'd like to use a quote from Carl Sandburg, lived 1878 to 1967. He said, "All politicians should have 3 hats, one to throw into the ring, one to talk through, and one to pull rabbits out of if elected." I'm not magical, but I will try to be educated, fair, informed, and creative when making decisions if elected. Thank you.
Next, we have Jack Templeton.
Yes, I too would just like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. I really hope this is indicative of the amount of turnout we're going to get on the election on the 21st. And I hope a lot of people do come out, because a lot of people think that their vote doesn't really count. But I think with this number of candidates running for council and for mayor, every vote is going to count, because I think between people getting elected and not getting elected will probably come down in a lot of cases to just 2 or 3 votes, so every vote will count. And so I hope everybody comes out and votes. The last thing is just before you make your final decision on who you'd like to vote for, I'm sure there's a couple of more issues of the FISHU coming out with more comments and ideas from the candidates. So I would encourage you, before you make your final decisions, to wait for those next 2 issues and read the comments that are there, so you have all the evidence before you make your final vote. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Helen Kelleher, MP.
I'd just like to thank
thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'd like to wish all my candidates the best of luck in the election. It's going to be a tough 4 years ahead for whoever is elected, and I would be honoured if you voted for me.
Mr. Hong?
Thank you. As a Christian, I pray thanks to God for blessing me and my family every day. I am thankful I have received so much from Canada, my friend, my neighbor, my fellow Jasperite. How could I ask more? I know that it is time to give back to Jasper community. With honest hard work and my rich life experience, I can emphasize, understand, represent many ideas, deep passion. We together make Jasper a better place for all of us. I am a hard-working person. I am responsibility. I am doer. I am ready to serve Jasper with my passion, honest. Thank you.
Next, we have Dwayne Wacko.
Thank you, Bert. Municipal status has been very good to this community. Provincial funding has enabled us to make significant gains on the infrastructure deficit. Hopefully, funding will continue. There are more challenges, many more challenges, but they are our challenges. We have before you tonight 25 worthy individuals hoping for the opportunity to serve you. I offer congratulations to all of them for choosing to contest this election. Residents of Jasper, please vote with the wisdom you have always shown. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Height.
Hello again. We are very fortunate to have so many railway employees and families living in Jasper. We're also blessed to live in a forest. The downside of these benefits are such examples as the horrendous train derailment and explosion in the town of Quebec, and a forest fire wiping out a large part of the town of Slave Lake. In the news, we heard a lot from the mayors from each of those towns. That is because as part of their responsibilities, the mayor becomes similar to a commander-in-chief to deal with any disaster in their community. In the absence of the mayor, the responsibilities fall to the deputy mayor. During the past 3 years in Jasper, that has been each councillor has served for 6 months. So not only do the citizens of Jasper need to be informed in advance by the municipality to know what to do in an emergency, including from the loss of water, natural gas, electricity, and possibly communications, they need to know that the mayor or deputy mayor can act decisively to protect them and their property. Please keep this in mind when you're choosing which municipal candidates to vote for. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Butler.
Well, I'm going to leave you a few thoughts on some things that I think are important and I hope to have the opportunity to help with. We need fair, consistent, and predictable governance. I'm going to take Richard at his word that the relationship with Parks Canada is not broken, but I'm going to put it to you that I think the relationship with Parks Canada is not serving the residents well, and we need to adjust it where planning and development is concerned. For long-term sustainability, we have to apply lifetime cost accounting to capital projects before we commit, which we have not been doing in the past. We need small, private, affordable rental apartments for young people and seniors, and we need to bring absolutely everyone to the table to make this happen. Business and employers and contractors and all levels of government. And I think I can help with all of that. I'm running because I want to represent the residents of Jasper and all the residents of Jasper. And I want to hear from you, from everyone, young and old, generation Y and Z, I'm not sure what they all are, temporary and permanent owners and renters, working and retired, because that's who my town is. So thank you.
Next, we have Rico Demota.
I don't know what it is about this podium that makes people change their personalities, but it seems to do it for me. You have to wear your heart on your sleeve up here in front of your fellow constituents, and it's sometimes nerve-wracking. I feel like the first time I stood up here 4 terms ago. Anyway, we all know the issues in our community. We know that our fixed boundary with our fixed tax base will be constraints on what we want to do and what we need to do. Proper housing, proper spaces for our youth, and services for our seniors are continuing to be part of the issues we need to tackle. I admit we haven't been perfect, but I've learned from our bumps in the road, and we'll use that experience in any future decisions I have to face. And I'd really like to stop building things for a little while. It's truly been an honor to serve you, and I hope you see that my dedication and experience are great assets to you and the community as a whole. I'm asking for your support for another term. Once again, thank you to the Chamber, thank you fellow candidates, and thank you, Jasper, for tuning in and coming out here this evening. Remember, just because you think a candidate may get elected, don't leave it up to someone else to check their name. I know who I'm voting for, and I hope we have something in common on October 21st. Thank you, and have a good night.
Next, we have David Baker.
Public speaking gets easier with time. I'm not nearly as nervous as I am right now. A little shameless self-promotion that may address some people's concerns. There's a new building going up, and in the spring of 2014, we're told it's going to open. Jasper has something coming to town that's going to put heads in beds and bums in seats. It's an arts center, and that's not the only reason that I'm on council. I'm not a one-issue candidate unless you consider my one issue is Jasper. But we have a lot of creative people sitting here, and you know what, when you guys go to make that X, put a team together that's going to get it done. We have a lot of things to be proud of in this town, and the Arts Center is going to be inclusive of all your Generation Y, Z, Ws, and stuff there. And it's going to be a hub. I think in collaboration with the teachers that we have in this town, we've built partnerships with different organizations throughout the province. They know where Jasper is, they know this is coming, they know what we're capable of, and we're going to have it ready to go. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Jeff Smith.
I hope this one's easier than the first one. Jeez Louise. I'm a firm believer in having that our town council should have representatives, a cross-section of people, and looking down this line of people for sure. That's definitely happening, which is awesome. Good to see. I'm going to see everybody out for sure. In closing, I would just like everyone to know that I am very approachable via Facebook, Twitter, or at the pub. Richard, happy now? My door is open at all times, and I take the time to listen to my fellow Jasperites for any opinions or concerns that they have, and hopefully all works out for everybody, and good luck to everyone in this. Thank you.
Next, we have Sue Sesko to read closing remarks of Heather Young-Leslie.
Heather pledges to listen to you, to work diligently to represent you, and help make Jasper an environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable community. She wishes she could have been here tonight and encourages you to contact her for deeper conversation about municipal council and our future as a town. Heather will be back in Jasper on the 17th and welcomes your comments and discussions.
Monica Schaefer's closing statements will be read by Pat Wilson.
I think if Monica were here this evening, she would want to thank you for coming. She'd also want me to encourage you to be sure and vote. Bring all your friends and families. And I think too that She might have spoken her closing remarks off the cuff. However, she did write something, and I'm obliged to read it. And I quote, "I know there will be some steep learning curves ahead of me if I am elected. There is much to learn, and I will work hard to serve you. I will listen and will endeavor to keep an open mind. I want you to know that I will be guided by my principles and by my values. The Jasper Community Sustainability Plan, completed in 2011, was a wonderful exercise in democracy. The very top pillar of that plan is environmental integrity. I was pleasantly surprised at the time how strongly that theme came through at all stages of the process. People really do care. What the Greens call the triple bottom line takes into account the environmental, social, and economic impacts of any decisions or action. I look forward to the outcome of this election," and I unquote. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Fred Kreiner.
I don't think there's any of the 25 candidates that are running for positions here that have a silver bullet to solve all the challenges that we're facing, or a rabbit to pull out of your hat, as Vana suggested. It's just not a reality. There are no simple solutions. When you're looking to decide who to vote for, I think it's important that you consider whether or not people are able to work together and collaboratively with others to foster a spirit of innovation to try and move Jasper forward as a community. And to try and find people who are going to represent all the people that are here. We talked a little bit about generations, but we also have, other than seniors and baby boomers and Generation X, Y, or youth, we also have an increasingly diverse population that I think is one of our strengths. Wenn es die Deutsche sind, die hier wohnen, oder die Schweizer, si c'est les francophones qui habitent ici, we have a growing Hispanic population. We have a growing Filipino population, and I think all of these add strength to our community. And I think we have to make sure that everyone that is here feels welcome and represented within our town council. I'd like to thank all of our candidates for stepping forward.
A community is as strong as the people who live in it. I've been proud to have the opportunity to work with many of Jasper's municipal leaders, business leaders, and leaders in the National Park Service. I've worked with youth and seniors and young adults and members of our diverse communities. These experiences have reinforced my belief that Jasper is rich in character, in leadership, and most of all, in potential. I'm a good communicator and I have sound judgment. I'm honest and I can see all sides of an issue. At least I think I can. It'd be an honor to serve you, and even if I don't get elected, I'm proud to serve Jasper. Thank you.
Next, we have Gilbert Wall.
Thank you to you all. No one comes to this microphone and says, I want to be fiscally incompetent. They don't come to the microphone and say, I want to abandon seniors. You know, they don't come to the microphone and say, let's get rid of the youth. Everybody in here has a good heart. But the hard reality, and the hard reality right now with the political environment we're in, is people can't tell the truth. And the truth is that we're going to have a very difficult 4 years funding our community. That being said, this is definitely not the time to disinvest. This is not the time to disinvest in daycare. It's not the time to disinvest in seniors. And it's certainly not the time to disinvest in the community as a whole. So we're simply going to have to pay for the time being in the present funding arrangement. And that's a hard truth. Thank you, and I look forward to your vote.
Next, we have Ann Thomas.
Well, I'm asking for your vote to be councillor. That comes down to asking for your trust You can trust that I'll do my very best to represent all residents in Jasper. You can trust that I have the experience of working well in team situations. You can trust that I will do the work required to be an informed councillor, and I'll bring a common sense approach to council. You can also trust that I will represent an interactive approach with residents and bring the council to be community friendly, which I believe is a necessity. And the other thing you can trust in is that I will try to be open in all affairs of council. So I would be grateful and proud if you would allow me to represent you. Thank you.
Next, we have Brian Nesbitt.
Thank you all for coming tonight. In closing, I'm going to offer you responsible governance. I have the experience. I've been on council before. I will listen to your concerns. I have the time. And I would like to say that the advance poll is on the 16th. Everybody talks about 21st, but some people end up missing it. Remember that the advance poll is on the 16th also. Thank you if I get your support, and if not, it's been a pleasure. Good luck to everybody.
Next we have John Glaves.
I get the last word. I like that. You know, the important thing is our community, and we have a really wonderful community. And, you know, if I get elected, my term would be for 4 years, but my goal would be to help plan for the future of the community. We have so many problems, and so many things that aren't problems too. Well, you know, we have land use issues, we have infrastructure money that we have to find ways to procure. We have housing problems for seniors and youth. But, you know, the biggest thing is working for the future of the community. I'm 61 years old, and I've lived in this community most of my adult life. I love this town, and I would like to see it as a great community in the future. And I'd like in 50 years to be a 61-year-old man standing in front of the town and saying to them, I love this town and I love this community. And I think that that's what we all have to work for, is to keep our community a community and a beautiful place to live. Thank you very much for coming out.
Next we have Karen Fontaine.
I just want to say thank you for giving me the chance to speak before you. And this is the second time I've tried to run, but if I don't get in, that's okay. I have other ideas. I have committee plans also, and I really want to get an investment committee started if I don't get in, and work on saving rather than spending. And that's all I could say for you now. Thank you.
Last we have Richard Ireland.
I too thank all of the candidates. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And I thank all of you. We all have an interest in the future of our community. Our community affords us the quality of life that we cherish. We have a community vision with absolutely grand aspirations. And identifying and building upon our shared interests offers the very best hope to realize both our personal and our community vision and those aspirations. If elected, I will continue to focus on building positive, productive relationships which will better enable us to implement that vision. Relationships, I believe, are the foundation of all that we have achieved and all that we can achieve. We speak of sustainability. In offering my service, my meager pledge is to sustain my effort and my enthusiasm for our community. Thank you.
Once again, please give these candidates a warm round of applause. Thank you very much. You did a very nice job. We're approaching the end of our evening. We want to remind you once again that Election Day is Monday, October the 21st. Polling station will be in this room and is open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Advanced poll is also in this room on October 16th between 3 and 8 p.m. Voting by special ballot is available to people who cannot make these two dates. An application for that can be made with Beryl Cahill in the municipal office, and the details are also posted on the back walls there. We would like to thank the Jasper Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring tonight's forum, the Fitzhugh for broadcasting tonight's forum on their website. Their archive video of tonight's forum is available on their website, www.fitzhugh.ca. Lastly, I'd like to thank my helpers, Trina Mickelson and Christine Nadal, for helping us today, and our timers, Wayne Natishan and Jeremy Dirksen. Thank you very much. A big thank you for coming out tonight. It was a very nice audience. Thank you very much for coming. And again, the last thank you goes to the candidates. They made it all happen. Thank you, and have a good night.
I don't mean to grandstand, but how about a round of applause for Bert for doing such a great job?